Taylor Hayes stood in the pale morning light of the Forrester Creations rooftop garden, the gentle California breeze lifting the hem of her soft white dress as though urging her onward. And she repeated the words she had rehearsed 1,000 times at home before the bathroom mirror, but today there was no pretense, no hesitation, only the raw truth that had taken root in her heart. "Ridge, will you marry me?" She spoke them with uncharacteristic urgency, the professional psychologist's usual caution swept away by a tide of longing she could no longer deny. Years earlier she had feigned indifference, skillfully composing herself to appear hard to get, to mask the depth of her feelings behind a studied reserve. She had counseled countless patients on boundaries and desire, knew better than anyone the perils of pursuing a man as free and untamed as Ridge Forrester, yet her own heart had rebelled. She produced the ring she had carried in her pocket since the afternoon Brooke Logan had offered her a second chance at love, Brooke's careless gift, a token unpolished but sincere, unlocked something in Taylor that she could neither analyze nor resist. When Ridge finally turned from studying a bolt of fabric pinned to the garden trellis and saw Taylor standing before him, ring extended like a white flag of vulnerability, his usual composure faltered for the briefest instant. He did not leap into the air, nor did he shout hallelujah. Instead his eyes grew wide with surprise, a faint tremor quivered along his broad shoulders, and then, in that delicate moment of suspended time, he nodded. "Yes," he whispered, and Taylor, her chest swelling with relief and disbelief, slipped the ring onto his finger as though fastening the final stitch in a tapestry she had begun weaving the day they first met. She kissed him softly, the world narrowing to that single, potent spark, and for a heartbeat, just one, everything was perfect. Unbeknownst to them, however, a pair of curious ears hovered beyond the trellis walls. Nick Marone, drawn by the click of Ridge's voice, had crept closer until the canopy of wisteria concealed him, and now he watched with a slow, calculating smile as Ridge and Taylor embraced their secret engagement. He would not waste a moment. Tomorrow at Forrester Creations he would corner Brooke, deliver the bombshell of Taylor's proposal, and watch the queen of high drama spin into outrage. Katie Logan, overhearing rumors of the rooftop rendezvous, insisted fervently to her sister that Ridge's acceptance of Taylor's proposal sprang not from love but from fear. That he feared leaving Taylor alone would shatter her into pieces, that his gesture was born of guilt rather than passion, and she predicted that within weeks the engagement would crumble under the weight of Ridge's indecision. Brooke, for her part, maintained a serene confidence that love had little to do with Taylor and Ridge's union, that they were merely two souls desperate for comfort, not destined for one another. And she planned to greet the news with amused detachment, certain that her own history with Ridge would prevail. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Will Spencer scanned the dimly lit living room of the Cliff House with a tense intensity. His phone's flashlight sweeping over scattered rose petals and overturned furniture as he read Luna Nozawa's cryptic text promising he would understand her actions soon. Memories of his father's ruthless dealings with Luna tugged at his conscience. Bill Spencer had once condemned her unjustly, then suddenly granted her a pardon, leaving Luna free to wander in a haze of confusion and resentment. Determined to set things right, and driven by a naive desire to catch his father's scapegoat in a crime that would justify her persecution, Will had set a trap. He wired the house with hidden cameras, laid a trail of misleading clues, and even placed a note implying that Steffi Forrester would visit that night. Finn, his close friend and Luna's former fiancé, cornered Will in the guest hallway, cautioning him that Luna was fragile, troubled, and that risking her breakdown for the sake of a trap could unleash something far more dangerous than a simple confession. Steffi, too, had warned Will that Luna's jealousy over Finn spoke of deeper wounds, that giving her the impression Steffi still awaited his attention might provoke a violent reaction, but Will believed himself shielded by righteousness. If he could catch Luna brandishing misdeeds on camera, he could prove she was unstable, persuade the authorities to confine her, and thus atone for his father's sins. Late that night, under a cobalt sky heavy with rain clouds, Luna arrived on the bluff, her silhouette outlined by the harsh beam of Will's rigged floodlight. She carried a bouquet of Steffi's favorite wildflowers, her mind fractured by obsession, and when she found the hidden cameras peeking from behind the sheer curtains, her panic ignited like a fuse. She demanded Will remove the devices, her voice quivering with betrayal, and when he refused, explanation tumbling into accusation, she uttered a single word, "Why?" That echoed across the empty expanse. Will tried to placate her, but in her agony Luna's grief warped into a primal fear. If she could not have Finn's steadfast love, no one would. She pulled a small caliber pistol from her coat, the metal glinting like a snake's fang, and aimed it at Will's chest. The first shot shattered glass and sent Will crashing backward, shards spraying across the terracotta floor. Steffi and Finn, who had insisted on checking in on Will before retiring for the night, burst through the doorway just as Luna's hand swayed and the gun barked again. Steffi reeled, clutching her side as crimson bloomed beneath her fingers and Finn's shout tore through the thunder. In the frenzy that followed, Deacon Sharp, already lurking in the shadows at Sheila's behest, prepared to escort Luna out of LA, rushed to the Cliff House, drawn by the crack of gunfire. He found Steffi crumpled against the stone wall, Finn at her side, and Luna trembling with horror, pistol still smoking. Deacon's heart screamed at him to protect his own son, to uphold the brutality he had helped conceive, yet the sight of Luna's tears and Steffi's blood forced him to choose, side with Sheila's merciless scheme or defend the innocent in front of him. Rifle in hand, he ordered Luna's weapon to the ground and knelt beside Steffi, pressing a towel to her wound, the weight of his betrayal burning his conscience. Luna, sobbing, fled into the downpour as police sirens wailed in the distance, and Deacon guided Finn and Steffi to safety, his loyalty to Sheila shattered by the truth that vengeance can kill the very souls it seeks to protect. Back at the Cliff House, the trio, Finn cradling Steffi's hand, Deacon pacing with guilt-stricken resolve, and Luna held in protective custody, faced the brutal consequences of every twisted plan. Taylor and Ridge would awaken to headlines of murder attempts and love triangles gone mad. Brooke and Nick's agonizing revelations would pale next to the night's violence, and Kate and Katie would scramble to manage the family's shattered reputation. Deacon, once Sheila's faithful lieutenant, vowed to testify against her machinations, hoping to save Luna from the abyss of a criminal conviction and to redeem himself in his son's eyes. Finn, torn between his duty as a surgeon and his desperation to comfort Steffi, pressed a gentle kiss to her brow and whispered promises of healing. And Luna, broken by obsession yet still flickering with humanity, looked between Will, now handcuffed in the foyer, and Deacon, realizing too late that love's darkest shadows are cast by those who believe they act in its name. In the dawn that followed, Forrester Creations would buzz with rumors of Taylor's surprise engagement, Katie's somber warnings, Brooke's ironic detachment, and Nick's gleeful plotting. At the Cliff House, police would sift through footage of hidden cameras, seeking evidence of premeditation and madness, while Deacon and Finn fought to shield Luna from the full weight of prosecution. Amid it all, Steffi would recover in the ICU, her bond with Finn deepened by the night's terror, and Taylor and Ridge's newly forged engagement would be tested by the specter of violence that had stalked their friends. The bold and the beautiful tapestry of love, betrayal, and redemption had never been more taut, and as each character confronted the pain they had caused and endured, One truth stood clear. When passion transmutes into obsession, the line between protector and predator vanishes, and only forgiveness and truth can restore the shattered soul. In the end, as the sun rose over Los Angeles, Taylor would reaffirm her love for Ridge amidst the unfolding chaos. Ridge would recommit to standing by her with the same fierce loyalty that had saved both Steffi and Luna, and the family would discover, once again, that the greatest drama lies not in the clothes they design, but in the hearts they wear. Luna Nozawa's heart pounded like a frantic drumbeat as she stumbled down the narrow back alley behind her apartment building, rain-slick cobblestones reflecting the dim glow of a single street lamp. Only moments before, she had realized with crushing horror that every move she had made, every whispered confession, every wounded plea, every frantic step toward freedom had led her into the very trap Will Spencer had laid. She had thought herself the puppet master, stringing him along with half-truths and veiled threats, but in truth she was the marionette, every whim dictated by a boy desperate to rewrite his father's sins. When Luna had learned the truth, that the incriminating recordings she'd allowed Will to capture were no more than a ruse designed to distract the Forrester clan from Will's real agenda, her panic had tipped her over the edge of rationality. She remembered the gleam in Will's eyes as he pressed her for lurid details of Steffi Forrester's nefarious plots against her, snapshots of overheard conversations edited to paint Steffi as a merciless schemer, and in her terror she had lied, revealing more than she knew, confessing intentions she never truly harbored, all in a desperate bid to protect Finn, her refuge, and her obsession. But as Luna realized that her loose tongue had broadcast Steffi's name to the underbelly of Spencer Publications, she knew that nothing would stop Will from parading her testimony in front of sympathetic jurors. If she remained in town, her every move would be surveilled, her reputation shredded, her hard-won freedom erased. She had to vanish. She had to reclaim the identity she'd sacrificed for a man whose loyalty was as mutable as a desert mirage. Will, of course, tried to block her path. He emerged from the shadows of the hallway, face alight with triumphant cruelty, arms outstretched as though to restrain her, to beg her to stay and finish delivering her confessions on camera, but Luna's resolve crystallized in that instant. She could not be caged again. With one fluid motion born of desperation, she drew the small silver pistol she had originally purchased for Steffi's protection on nights when Luna feared for Finn's safety, the weight of it cold and comforting in her palm. Will's smile faltered as he recognized the gesture, but Luna did not hesitate. The shot erupted in a thunderclap that ricocheted off the concrete walls, and Will's body convulsed as he crumpled to the ground, a spray of crimson blossoming on his crisp white shirt. Even if the bullet had missed its mark, a fact she would not discover until later, Luna's thrown handgun reverberated against his temple, knocking him unconscious, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. Her chest heaved with shock and triumph. She had bought herself a few precious hours, maybe days, of unimpeded flight. Downstairs, in the cavernous foyer of Spencer Publications, the night shift receptionist found Will collapsed in a puddle of his own blood, his phone still recording, its screen cracked but stubbornly blinking. Within minutes, paramedics were tearing through the doors, and the urgent wail of sirens split the night. News of Will's shooting ricocheted through the corridors of power, Bill Spencer's penthouse, Katie Logan's spacious home, Liam Spencer's rented beach house, and Electra Forrester's modest college apartment, each occupant reacting in a spiraling horror. Bill's commanding phone call to the emergency room came through with a tremor in his voice as he learned his son's condition was serious. A concussion, a deep gash requiring stitches, possible skull fracture, and a skull-conscious physician urging immediate neurological evaluation. Each reluctant doctor echoed the same fear. Will was young, but trauma of that nature could leave lasting damage or worse. Bill's guilt strangled him. He recalled the day he had granted Luna a full pardon, trusting in the goodness he insisted resided in all people, believing that compassion was the antidote to cruelty. Now that pardon had granted Luna the freedom to enact carnage, and his forgiveness had become the fuel for reckless violence. Katie Logan, ever the empathetic soul, paced the fluorescent hallway outside the trauma unit, clutching her cell phone like a lifeline as she tried in vain to reach her daughter, Hope. Liam Spencer staggered into the ER lobby moments later, eyes hollow with dread, scarred by his own recent prognosis. A degenerative condition that left him feeling perpetually subjugated by mortality. He cornered Bill with a brotherly fury edged in trembling uncertainty. "Father, not again. I can't lose another child of ours, not when I'm barely holding on to my own life." Electra Forrester appeared beside them, her youthful concern mingling with cold dread. She had idolized Luna's resilience, seeing in her a model of independence, and now that model was again a fugitive. Each of them absorbed Will's injuries as a personal wound, a testament to the perils of entangling hearts in webs of deceit. Meanwhile, Sheila Carter, perched in Deacon Sharp's dimly lit hideaway apartment, shook her head with bitter amusement as she listened to Deacon's recounting of the night's bloody turn. Sheila had once fallen prey to Bill Spencer's honeyed lies, had believed in his brand of paternal benevolence until his schemes had nearly consumed her son. She was not surprised that Luna, too, had been lured into a maelstrom of machinations by a man with power to spare. As Deacon described Luna's frantic escape, the gunshot, Will's collapse, and the approaching police, Sheila's lips curved into a sad smile. "The Spencers," she murmured, "they deal in forgiveness like it's a weapon, not realizing how many hands they cut in the process." Deacon nodded, guilt etched into his weathered features. He had watched Luna's spiral, had aided Sheila's darker plan to exile her, only to see it culminate in Will's near murder and Luna's desperate flight. He vowed then to betray Sheila's trust to protect Luna from the legal maelstrom that would follow. As dawn broke over Los Angeles, Luna Nozawa felt the first pang of exhaustion in her limbs. She had fled her apartment in a borrowed car, ditching it miles from the city, and sprinted through winding industrial roads until her lungs burned. She carried with her a battered duffel bag stuffed with minimal belongings, a tattered passport under the name Emiko Arai, a single $100 bill rolled tight, a crumpled photograph of Finn's smiling face, and a folded note in Bill Spencer's handwriting, his last desperate plea for her to seek help rather than revenge. But Luna's obsession with reclaiming her autonomy burned hotter than any gratitude she felt for Bill's kindness, and she knew that letting him see her as a victim would cost her the last shred of agency. She wanted to strike back at Steffi and Finn for exiling her from his life, at Brooke and Ridge for severing the only anchor she had ever felt. So she kept running, trading one safe house for another. An abandoned beach hut north of Malibu, a rundown inn near the Salton Sea, a ramshackle cabin in the Angeles National Forest. Everywhere she went, she watched the sunrise alone, ratcheting the tension of her survival higher. Back at the Forrester mansion, Ridge Forrester sat across from Brooke Logan in the Grand Library, the afternoon sun gilding the spines of his father's fashion tomes. Ridge's broad shoulders slumped as he delivered the difficult truth Brooke had been blind to. His engagement to Taylor Hayes was not born of passion but of duty, his duty to protect a woman whose psyche he had helped fracture, whose trust he feared he might shatter again. Brooke's sapphire eyes, accustomed to reading Ridge's unspoken heart, narrowed with both pity and anger. She had long accused Ridge of staying with Taylor out of remorse, of orchestrating a loveless union to assuage the guilt that had dogged him since Taylor's first confession of love. Ridge did not deny it. He admitted that he owed Taylor his loyalty, that he could not betray the fragile equilibrium she had finally achieved after decades of loss. The last thing he wanted was to dash her hopes now, to subject her to another shock that might reopen old wounds. Yet in his chest the embers of longing for Brooke still glowed, a quiet ache that broke his voice when he confessed, "Brooke, as much as I yearn to be with you, it will not happen. I have made a vow, and I intend to honor it." Brooke drew in a trembling breath, her heart twisting at the finality of his words. She had envisioned a reunion in Italy, a stolen moment on a sun-drenched piazza, but Ridge's steadfast resolve shattered those dreams. No longer would she linger in false hope. Instead, she turned her gaze to Nick Marone, who stood just outside the library door, his handsome face etched with curiosity. The adventure the two of them would soon embark upon in Tuscany seemed, to Brooke, a necessary escape from the labyrinth of her own heart. Nick's impatient grin promised reckless delight. Together they would launch into an Italian reverie, leaving Ridge's tangled obligations behind. Unbeknownst to them, however, Ridge's engagement to Taylor would not be the final twist in his romantic saga. Whispers of a surprise awaited him and Brooke both. A revelation that his upcoming wedding to Taylor would be only the prelude to more startling turns of the heart. For in the halls of Forrester Creations, tongues wagged over clandestine sketches of couture destined for bridal collections, each design infused with Ridge's conflicted desires and Brooke's stubborn allure. Katie Logan and Donna Forrester exchanged secret confidences about Taylor's unwavering dedication, about Ridge's sense of honor and sacrifice, and in their hushed voices they predicted that Ridge's true test would not be on the altar, but in the quiet moments afterward, when love's fragile bloom meets the harsh light of reality. So as Luna vanished into the dawn, pursued by her own dark impulses and Will's lingering danger, and as Ridge and Brooke prepared to face separate destinies. One in flight, one bound by promise, the bold and the beautiful wove its tapestry ever onward, each thread taut with tension, each heart poised on the edge of revelation. The stage was set for more betrayals and redemptions, for the collision of duty and desire, and for the question that haunted every character, when the fragile line between love and obligation fractures, which voice will one heed, heart or honor? In Los Angeles, in Tuscany, in the wild spaces between, the answer lay waiting in the next whispered confession, the next desperate flight, and the next vow given under uncertain skies.